welcome to Bits to Billions, the unicorn story. We are in conversation with Mayan Kumar, the co-founder and managing director of UpGrad, which is targeted mostly at working professionals. It helps them upskill and get a leg up. Mayank, it's good to be in Mumbai, right in the middle of monsoons. It's rainy, it's windy. Which way is the wind blowing for UpGrad? Because if I look at the education technology space, there's a lot of storm ahead, a lot of storm already underway in terms of layoffs and cutbacks. Which way is the wind blowing for you?
It's all the tailwind right now, Chandra. No headwinds right now for us. But I think the good part is that the ecosystem is maturing and we are seeing a lot of newer things emerging, and specifically in the working professional, college learner, higher education ecosystem, things are looking far more interesting than perhaps what it was a year or 2 years back.
Right. But in terms of growth, a lot of the other edtechs we saw, they've suffered post-pandemic with things moving offline. Yeah. How has it been for you?
No, so I think for a lot of K through 12 ecosystem and let's say test prep ecosystem, yes, because of pandemic coming in, offline shut down. So a lot of demand went to sort of the online ecosystem, and now with offline opening up, some demand is bound to go back, and therefore each of the edtech ecosystem providers where there's an offline alternative, they're thinking of ways and means in which they can venture into that domain, but it will have a short-term impact. But I do believe that in the long run, given what happened during pandemic and how the shift happened, you will see a significant move happening and online adoption will increase going forward because now people have experienced it. Education is a funny business. More people experience it, more people will come there.
Founded in 2015, UpGrad is one of India's education technology unicorns, founded and run by Ronnie Screwvala, Mayan Kumar and Falgun Kumpally. Targeted at the 18 to 60 age group, UpGrad is a higher education and upskilling startup that offers accredited courses and certificates in relevant industries such as e-commerce, big data and BFSI. It competes with the likes of Eruditus, Byju's owned Great Learning, Simply Learn, Udemy and Coursera among others. Its offerings cover various segments such as test prep, study abroad programs and undergrad degrees to campus courses in 250 universities. It was last valued at a reported 2.25 billion after raising 225 million. It wants to be in the full value chain of college learners and working professionals.
Mayank, the other thing that I've also noticed among other edtechs, mainly in the test prep space, be it your Byju's, Vedantu, Unacademy, they've all pivoted to offline. EdTech started with this value proposition that it's going to be online, it's really going to redefine the paradigm. But if you look at it now, it's almost as if we are back to square one. So will UpGrad change its model in any way? Do you see a need to change your model? You're in a very different space, the higher education and upskilling space. But will you also have to make changes to adjust to the new normal, to adjust to the offline world?
So I think there's difference in the models that some of the other edtech providers are playing in, because at least in their segment there's an offline alternative, and therefore for them to capture the demand, they do need to have a presence in offline because there is a customer preference for offline, they need to be there. There's a customer preference for online, they need to be there. So I guess for those sectors, specifically K through 12, test prep, tuitions and sort of tutoring centers, I do see a need for a lot of edtech companies to go towards offline because there's a market sitting there where they can leverage technology and improve the efficacy, etc. That's something that they will definitely work on. But when it comes to, let's say, working professional college learners, because there's not that much of an offline alternative, online is the only option for most individuals to study and learn. And therefore for us, while we will be present offline, but that will largely be for acquisitions, counseling, being closer to the customer. and not necessarily for teaching.
Right. The other thing that I want to ask you, Mayank, is your value proposition is targeted at working professionals who want to upskill themselves in, courses that are relevant to their particular industry. In fact, 75% of your business comes from there, and 25% are perhaps people who want to pursue online degrees. But now with, the job market looking a little bleak, at least when it comes to startups.
Yep.
We've seen over 13,000 people being laid off. Do you still think people will invest in upskilling now, working professionals, or will they be more careful with the money they spend?
Sure.
Will they be more cautious? How is it going to affect the dynamic for you?
So there's interesting statistics that education is counter-cyclical to the economic sort of growth. So whenever the economy goes down,
The
higher
demand for
education
higher
picks up.
education goes
We have
up.
seen this in 2008,
Yeah.
2009. We have seen this in 2014, 15, 16, around the time when that transition happened. So I do see that this is the time when a lot of these individuals will go back to the drawing board, invest in themselves and become more relevant. And we are seeing that. I mean, given whatever is happening, we are not seeing a drop in demand. We are seeing same number of people actually more enthusiastically looking for a better sort of upskilling opportunity. In fact, when I look at this ecosystem, I also believe that what's happening in startup is a very small portion of the working professional ecosystem. There's a much larger IT services, BFSI, FMCG, retail ecosystem where people are looking at ways and means in which they can get to more new age roles, more sort of growth roles.
How is it working out for you? Will you also have to optimize and rationalize and all these terms that
Yeah.
companies are
Right
using to
sizing
cut
and right
to cut costs?
Better terms for cutting costs.
Yeah.
No, I would not deny that there is an environment where, funding is going to be difficult, funding is going to be tricky. So for every line of business, one has to be running it in a manner that is sustainable. We cannot run a business which every customer coming into us is loss making, and that shift has to happen. Having said that, there are other areas in which we are growing. So while the core business is profitable and will throw in cash, there are areas where we'll continue to invest. So we venture into study abroad, which is a very large part of our business. We are going to invest in that. We are looking at sort of our own branded skill certification program, where we are going to invest heavily on there. We have few job guarantee, job link program. We are going to invest in these elements. So there are multiple new areas, Chandra, that we have ventured into where we will continue to invest. So we are looking at hiring for leadership roles, for various sort of operation roles and executive roles. And those are the places where we will double down and ensure that just because there is that talk of funding winter, we don't get into a place where we are not investing in future growth. That future growth is integral to our sort of long-term journey, because we are creating a lifelong learning pathway, and just one line of business may not suffice for us to be a lifelong learning provider.
Right. I must ask you, Mayank, if I talk to entrepreneurs in Bangalore, at least in the last few weeks, the mood is pretty bleak. People are talking about how everything has kind of come to a standstill, and what's the mood like among founders in Mumbai?
See, I guess, except for the monsoon, everything seems to be on track. No, but I guess there's no that much of difference between Bombay and Bangalore. In Mumbai also, folks are now looking at making and ensuring that they are not going beyond the means at which they need to operate in. So there will be that, you will definitely see a far more scrutiny in how people are hiring, far more scrutiny in what kind of resources that you are investing in. A lot of adjacent experiments that companies were doing will start slowing down.
That will not happen.
That may not happen, but if you're very clear about your strategy, then you don't think twice whether this is an experiment which is adjacent, but this is part of your strategy. So I guess those are the ways in which you will see difference, but I don't see that significant difference in Bombay and Bangalore, because money has no color and money has no destination preference. But we definitely see things getting more saner and more rational in the approach right now.